Welcome in
Free agency.
I was just about to say,
Yeah, man.
honestly, Happy New Year.
Yeah, pretty much.
It is officially the start of the 2021 NFL league year as of the beginning of free agency, which is a couple hours old by now.
And it's kind of weird because it kind of felt like the free agency period opened up on Monday. It kind of feels like the legal tampering period is only a legal tampering period in name and not really in function.
It's an interesting phrase. It's legal tampering. You can legally do things illegally.
Yeah, it's kind of stupid.
It's kind of strange, but that's okay. We're not worried about the semantics here. We're just happy that the new league year is upon us. Welcome to the Face Mask Podcast. John Alsace, Nick Payne. And I think we're gonna what are we doing today? We're talking about, we're gonna talk about the free agents, but I guess we're gonna try to break down some of these new landing spots or landing spots for players.
I think the format that we chose to use last week worked pretty well, or earlier this week.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go back to that
Let's do it.
And go with the Q&A geared towards free agents.
Yeah, let's break down the landing spots for some of these guys and what it all means for fantasy purposes, of course.
So first question.
Hit me.
What's been the biggest surprise to you thus far? What was the one that was just like, whoa, really? That's kind of out of left field.
I guess, I'll probably be with the consensus here, was after the Patriots gave Jonnu Smith a 4-year deal, the very next morning, it was reported that they were also signing Hunter Henry. And
yeah, that one was pretty crazy.
It makes sense from the standpoint of, okay, we've seen the Patriots have a lot of success running 2 tight end sets with 2 pass catching tight ends before. It's a lot of money that you see go to those 2 players when they're both good. They're both good players. We profiled both of them before free agency started. Lo and behold, they end up on the same team. But it's a lot of money. Now, the Patriots had money to spend. And you would think, with their situation, there are legitimate questions about Cam and his ability to throw the ball at this stage in his career. So you get some seemingly targets that kind of work underneath. They work the intermediate part of the field. That's generally what a tight end does. Now, Jonnu Smith, I think, is a little bit better as far as yards after the catch than Henry. But they're both solid. They've both been very productive tight ends to this point in their careers, and they both have the ability to catch the ball at the position. They're not blockers. They can be, but that's not what you signed them for, especially not for all that money. So the Hunter Henry signing was a surprise just because of the timing, because it came, 12, maybe 18 hours after the Patriots had also signed Jonnu Smith.
Yeah, and it just, yes, for the Patriots, it makes sense. And side note, this was my biggest surprise too, so I'm right in lockstep with you.
Okay.
But they just signed the highest profile tight end in free agency. And they go back to the well. And it doesn't make sense. Outside of, it's Belichick and the Patriots, and he's done this before.
Right.
It doesn't make sense. The whole they zig when other teams zag thing, he had the benefit of the doubt from me when they had a good quarterback, Tom Brady. Cam Newton isn't that guy.
Nah.
The only thing I can point to is in the past, he had a lot of success with Greg Olsen, and he doesn't have the biggest arm anymore.
Right.
But it would just make sense to me to say, yes, go get Jonnu Smith, but then pair him with the Kenny Golladay or something.
Yeah, why not get a receiver?
Build a real NFL offense.
Right, because nobody fears the Patriots' wide receiving group right now. There's not much to speak of there.
No, and the people that they went out and got to kind of bolster their wide receiver depth, it just doesn't make sense. Kendrick Bourne and Nelson Aguilar,
who had a good year.
Nelson Aguilar got a 2-year, $26 million contract.
Yeah, he got
Nelson
paid.
Aguilar, who had a contract year, a career year last year, and he only put up 800 and something yards and 7 touchdowns. And that's good.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's 2-year, $13 million a year good. And I don't think that's, he should be Bill Belichick's wide receiver of the present for the next few years. It doesn't make sense.
I would say Aguilar his game is similar, not to a T, but his game is similar to Julian Edelman's. Now, the difference is Aguilar, I would say, is a little bit better of a deep threat than Edelman, but Aguilar is by trade a guy who typically works well out of the slot. It's a good slot receiver.
He's a poor man, very poor man's Robert Woods.
Sure. Well,
and that's who my comparison would be if he was to have a late career breakout. But Robert Woods broke out at age 26, and Aguilar is going into his age 28 season. So this is a really late time for you to be getting, an 1,000-yard season out of your career.
And he's a receiver who's got some speed, and that's only naturally going to decline as he gets older. So, interesting signing. I think it makes sense from the standpoint of they'll utilize him like they have used Edelman, who at this point in his career is probably a bit of a shell of himself. But it's just, when you have Kenny Golladay sitting out there, and at the time, guys like Corey Davis, guys like Marvin Jones were available. And with that room that they have, which there's not much to speak of there outside of the signings they just made. Interesting choice by the Patriots. But they chose to prioritize the tight end because it worked well for them in the past. So I guess they decided to go back to what has worked for them before. We'll see.
And the other difference being neither of these two guys that they just signed are going to be Hall of Famers. I'm sorry, Jonnu Smith might be really good.
They're good players. They're not right. Rob Gronkowski in his prime.
Yeah, it remains to be seen if they're even Aaron Hernandez on the field in his prime. But
we'll see.
I don't know. And they also just drafted 2 tight ends kind of early.
Yeah, in the 3rd round last year. Yeah, both were 3rd rounders. So that's
Dalton
not nothing.
Keene and
Devin Asiasi.
Right, and they played Ryan Izzo for most of the year last year as their number 1 tight end.
Yeah,
so
they
it's
did.
just they got 5 tight ends now on their squad. It's an interesting way to build your team. When you're the first team out of the gate, spending all the money in the world, it's an interesting way to build.
One of those guys will be on the move if they don't ultimately get released. But
yeah, we just saw Josh Oliver get moved.
So anything's possible, right?
Yeah. So that was a definite surprising move, probably to the whole fantasy community.
Yeah,
and I'm sure Patriots fans are happy about it.
Yeah,
but
I would say now though, Hunter Henry at his ADP is much less enticing. I pushed Jonnu Smith on this program before because his ADP is lower, so he's a little bit better of a value. I don't know. It's tough to fully endorse them both, but I will say this. I think they will be something of the focal point of the passing game for whatever that's worth. Whether they are guys to actually target in fantasy drafts, this landing spot is a little... I'm not as enthused about as I would be had they gone somewhere to a team with a quarterback who doesn't have question marks about his ability to throw the ball at this point.
So we just kind of talked about 2 guys here who were surprising, but we're also not real happy with their fantasy value.
Yeah, meh, very meh.
The biggest winner of free agency so far.
probably, I'm gonna keep beating this drum until for as long as his career goes. But Aaron Jones re-upping with the Packers, getting back into that same situation where we've seen him produce back-to-back top 5 running back seasons is a good one. Now, obviously, he didn't switch teams, but there were plenty of rumors that he was going to. I think sticking with that offensive line is still great. They have that quarterback up there named Aaron Rodgers. You may have heard of him. And it's a good team that plays in a cold weather environment. Both of those are positive attributes for opportunities in the run game. So that I'll say that. You got to think about some of these others. I mean, Corey Davis to the Jets, he'll have a great opportunity there. Could be the number 1, depending on what happens.
I think the general assumption is he is going to be the number 1.
Yeah.
I just don't know how much upside there is there. I think he's going to end up posting the same kind of numbers he's been posting. It might be more on the higher end of the spectrum, but I can't help but think he's going from catching passes from the most efficient quarterback playing the game right now on a pass basis in Tannehill when he was playing with Arthur Smith to a team that is just a tire fire right now, and we don't know what to expect. And a lot of people are going to point to Robert Saleh being there, and hopefully they're turning over a new leaf. But I heard somebody say something the other day to the effect of, don't forget what happened after everybody who had any connection to Sean McVay got hired, and how they've done since. And I feel like people are doing the same thing with anybody that Kyle Shanahan's worked with as well. So I'm not willing to just come out and say, hey, Jets are a totally different team.
No.
And they also have Denzel Mims there, who I think...
Yes, they do.
He could come in and be a 1A and force Corey Davis into a 1B situation again, because...
Yeah, he could.
That might just be what Corey Davis is.
Yeah, he could. Yeah, no, there's a lot of people who like Mims. I figure...
And Crowder is still there.
Somebody's...
Herndon is still there.
Yeah, I mean, Crowder's a slot guy. He's not going to go on the outside, so Davis will...
Braxton Berrios.
Well, get out of here. Yeah, I mean, Davis will be... I guess he'll rotate between the X and the Z positions, but Crowder, I don't think, takes away anything because Crowder's the slot guy.
Targets. He's going to take away targets.
Yeah.
If for some reason they find a way to stick with Darnold and they use the draft to just bolster their roster around Darnold, which technically is still a possibility. I know there's a lot of rumors that they're going after Zach Wilson in the draft, and they're going after Deshaun Watson from the Texans.
Oh, yeah.
But if they find a way to stick with Darnold, he has this crazy connection with Jamison Crowder, where that's his first read, and he'll take it majority of times because it's open, because it's the slot.
Yeah, it's an easy throw.
Remember what Brashad Perriman did in that offense. Corey Davis is going to play the Brashad Perriman role. And I know
I'm fine.
That was Gase.
I'm fine with that.
And that was Darnold.
Yeah.
But
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I'm all right with that. I'm not expecting Corey Davis to replicate the numbers that he had last year.
Okay. All right.
I'm not. But I think he'll...
So you're feeling the same way.
But I think he'll be better than what he had been for the first 3 years of his career.
He's going to be a wide receiver 3.
Yeah. Well, he'll have some 2 weeks.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but for the season long, if you're looking at what he does season long, I'm thinking somewhere in between 800 and 900 yards.
Sure.
And maybe 6 to 7 touchdowns. Pretty much what he did this past year.
Maybe a slight downtick, just because the efficiency of the offense is likely to not be as good as what the Titans have been the past 2 years. But we'll see.
Yeah, that's true. I would have to say my biggest winner right now isn't a guy that was really moving to another team. It's Anthony Ferkler.
Okay. All right. I mean,
Anthony
sure.
Ferkler just got re-upped by the Tennessee Titans.
Mm-hmm.
And we just talked about Corey Davis. But there's 108 targets being vacated from that offense.
Yeah.
And they don't have a ton of pass catchers to begin with.
Davis is gone. Jonnu Smith is gone. Did they cut Adam Humphries?
Yep.
Poof.
Khalif Raymond, your boy.
They didn't bring him back either.
Right. There's a ton of vacated targets on this team.
Just 108?
And yes,
Feels like
AJ
there should be
Brown
more.
I thought there would be more too, but there's such a running team. There's actually not.
There's such a running team, and the passing game runs through AJ Brown.
Right. But I think from what we're seeing right now, it doesn't look like, unless they go out and get a Curtis Samuel, who news has been kind of quiet on thus far. We've heard about Kenny Davis to the Giants and all that. Kenny G. Kenny Davis.
Yeah, do we have some breaking news here?
We got some breaking news. Gerald Everett. Yeah, formerly of the Rams, signed to a $6 million contract with the Seattle Seahawks.
Interesting.
Yes.
And that wasn't even the breaking news I was talking about.
Okay, what's the breaking news you were talking about?
Curtis Samuel is signing with the Washington football team.
Okay, there we go.
All right, so that's interesting.
Should we swerve and just talk about the Washington offense right now?
I think we have to.
Okay.
I think we have to. Now,
all right.
This Washington offense is very interesting.
Yeah, Ryan Fitzpatrick. I thought that he might have to be forced into retirement.
He lives.
But it looks like he's getting one more shot.
He lives.
He's going to a team that he hasn't played for before. So now he will have played for, I think, his 10th team in the NFL and still never been to a playoff. I think this is the year he might go because that defense might be able to take him there. And it looks like they're building a pretty good offense. They got Curtis Samuel here for the next 3 years.
Yup. This is going to be a good offense.
Terry McLaurin, your boy.
Terry's going to have 150 targets minimum, and a lot of those are going to be shots downfield.
Like they got it. Antonio Gibson.
Right. Now they add Curtis Samuel, who presumably goes into kind of the
JD
slot
McKissick.
role.
They got a really good team, man. I like this.
Now they had, was it Brandon Sherf? Their standout guard on the offensive line. I don't think he's been signed back. Not sure what his status is, or if he may end up elsewhere. So it's possible their offensive line takes a bit of a hit, but now their personnel at the skill positions, paired with a gunslinger like Fitzpatrick, because good or bad, Fitzpatrick chucks it downfield. This offense should score points. They might be in a situation where you have to keep up with them.
What I really hope doesn't happen is they also draft the quarterback of the future, and halfway through the season they start playing him in place of Fitzpatrick, like what's happened to him the past few years. He's been in the league because honestly, he doesn't get the respect that he deserves. And I think with this Washington offense, he kind of unlock that potential that I don't know. I think this is the best offense he's ever gonna have played on.
It's definitely possible.
At least the youngest and most promising.
Yeah. You've got a stud young wide receiver in McLaurin. You've got an emerging piece in the backfield in Antonio Gibson. He's a bit of a late breakout, but Logan Thomas flashed big time in 2020.
Well, he changed positions too.
Right.
So there's that. He wasn't always a tight end.
True. He was a quarterback.
For the Bills. There you go.
There you go. You mentioned McKissick, who was top 3 in routes run out of the backfield in 2020. That'll probably change. That won't.
Especially with Curtis Samuel coming.
Yeah. See. Oh, I can't believe I'm saying this, but for fantasy purposes, just a hair, do I dislike Antonio Gibson a little bit more because of Curtis Samuel's trickery? His
No, you like him more, man.
Don't get me wrong. Antonio Gibson is
look at what
is a tantalizing.
I'm not going to compare Antonio Gibson to Christian McCaffrey, but look what Christian McCaffrey was able to do with Curtis Samuel in that offense. Now, they used him as a jackknife, but Christian McCaffrey was still able to be the running back one, and the number one player overall in fantasy in some years.
Yeah.
So I don't think that takes anything away from Antonio Gibson. I actually think that helps him a little bit.
Maybe it hurts McKissick.
Definitely hurts McKissick.
Might hurt McKissick a little bit because those.
It might hurt Logan Thomas.
Yeah, there's probably there's a minimum of 60, 70 targets that are going Samuel's way.
Yeah.
I would think Gibson's role on third down expands this year. I think he was only in on third down plays, like maybe 30 of them total for the season. So you're talking about a couple a game. That should go up as his role expands and he starts to learn and understand the position a little bit more. Because remember, he's kind of raw as far as playing the running back position. He was a hybrid Swiss Army knife, kind of like Curtis Samuel in college. So there's a lot of interchangeable parts here. This offense might be a lot of fun to watch in 2021. And you got a gunslinger like Fitzpatrick. Oh man, bye Washington.
And the defense is going to be fun.
Yeah, they're going to be good.
Chase Young is going to be wrecking people.
Okay,
so it's going to be a fun whole team to watch. That division. If the Giants can land Golladay, and the Giant or the Washington football team stays going on the road that they're going, Dallas is already there.
Right, they get Dak back.
The Eagles have a new look offense. This division is going to look pretty interesting. We assume the Eagles go wide receiver in the draft.
Yeah.
This whole division could look pretty interesting.
Yeah, when you mentioned the defense for Washington, that immediately, like, I'm back in the driver's seat when it comes to Antonio Gibson because, again, good defenses lead to more opportunities for the running back.
Yep.
Yeah, this offense is going to be good. Bye, Washington. Oh, my God. Ryan Fitzpatrick is probably an 18th round pick in best balls.
And, about Gibson, don't forget he has one of the most incredible athletic profiles at running back we've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
It's top three with Jonathan Taylor and AP, and then right behind him is Chris Johnson. So that's the athletic profile that we're talking about with Gibson.
It's a solid list.
So, yeah, I don't think you should be fading Gibson at all. I think you should be bumping him up.
No.
Bump him up your ranking.
I wasn't, I didn't want to insinuate that I was in any way fading him. I was just weighing the potential of what a Curtis Samuel does for that backfield, because not only did he get plenty of rushing opportunities last year, and yes, McCaffrey was out, but this goes back to his career when he was in college at Ohio State. He was constantly in the backfield and getting carries out of the backfield. So could they rotate him in here and there? Sure, but when they're in the guts of the game and Washington needs to churn out yards and pick up first downs, Gibson will be the guy. And that's just in late game situations. Throughout the game, he will be heavily involved. Yeah, this offense is going to be good. Buy them.
We keep coming up with offenses that we're buying all the players in.
That's okay.
So far, they keep coming in the same division, but yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, I'm buying Washington players, and I'm buying Curtis Samuel if I can.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty good landing spot for him. The one thing would be, I want to know, I got to look this up, what Curtis Samuel has done as a deep threat, because, again, Ryan Fitzpatrick likes to chuck it.
I think Terry's the deep threat.
Terry's the number one who's getting 150 targets.
Right. So I don't think you need to worry about Curtis Samuel's deep game. I think you need to bump him up because he's going to be getting the largest target share that he's ever received. He's now the number 2 on that depth chart, and nobody on that depth chart is threatening his number 2 spot. They could draft somebody, but I don't see that happening. I think they just invested in their wide receiver too.
Not a believer in Sims.
Yeah, they drafted Sims. They drafted Kelvin Harmon the year before.
Yeah.
I think they're Jags.
Those are the guys who are kind of getting cast out.
Right. We saw what they could do last year. Dontrell Inman was getting snaps over them at some points last year, and just not.
Samuel's gonna change that.
Samuel's 100%. They're number 2 now.
Ooh, this is gonna be a good offense. I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm all the way in.
All right. Well, since we swerved, I'm gonna swerve back.
We can swerve back.
So we went over biggest surprises.
Mm-hmm.
We went over biggest winners, for the most part. Biggest loser.
Is it possible?
And I know we already talked about the Patriots, so I don't think.
No, it's not.
I think they would almost qualify, but
It's not the Patriots. I was going to say, is it Christian Kirk? The Cardinals.
Could be.
The Cardinals
I
signed
wasn't thinking
AJ
about
Green. The Cardinals signed AJ Green to a 1-year deal worth up to $8 million. That's not nothing. That's a we want you to come in and play type of deal.
Is Larry Fitz back this year?
He hasn't retired.
He unretired?
He has not retired.
He has not retired. Okay.
So you know, obviously you've already got DeAndre Hopkins. He's locked into his number one
assuming
role.
he was going to be done this season. So when I saw that, I thought, okay, they got a veteran guy, Larry Fitz, in there, and Christian Kirk's not going to lose any value, but he's not going to gain any either.
I'm a little afraid he may have just lost a little bit of value.
Oh, okay. So where do you see him finishing, and where do you see AJ Green finishing?
Don't draft either one of them.
Well, yeah, that goes without saying. Nobody's drafting AJ Green at age 33 going to a new team.
So Larry Fitzgerald is officially a free agent. He's not on the Cardinals at the moment. Now, will he go anywhere else? I have a hard time believing that. If he were to go,
so this could be Larry Fitz insurance.
Could be insurance to replace Fitzgerald, who could retire but hasn't yet. So he's probably still weighing his options. But if he comes back, Christian,
the only pass catcher I want in that offense is D-Hop.
yeah, I mean, it. Other than that, it's you got two aging vets, both of whom are years and years past their prime, and years removed from any type of fantasy relevance. But they're going to eat into the target share of some of the younger guys there, like Kirk. To me, I would say it's Christian Kirk. If Kenny Golladay signs with the Giants, then Sterling Shepard is also a loser. Darius Slayton is also a loser here. They're not losers. They lose as far as the free agency fallout goes. But right now, today, Christian Kirk is not an interesting late round pick for me. I'm passing there.
Yeah, he's never, for the past few years, I don't know what it is. He's just never been a guy that I've ever looked at and been like, oh, I want him on my team. I think he's going to do well soon. Or I think he's going to pop off soon. Maybe it's because I've, through my early fantasy years, invested in that number 4 receiver that was overhyped on the Cardinals, and it never worked out. Because we've seen those guys in J.J. Nelson, and the list is endless. But yeah, I agree with you. He's a loser. I don't think he's the biggest.
Who's the biggest loser?
I got a little loser and I got a big loser here.
Okay.
What do you want to go with first?
Let's go little. We want to have some build up here.
This is nitpicky.
Okay.
And I think you got to look at this. You got to take my loser sticker with a grain of salt. Deandre Swift. Now hear me out.
Yeah.
I still think he's going to be running back 1. Because on talent alone, and they don't have anybody else to go to in that offense, he's still going to get a ton of work.
Yeah.
But we all thought coming into this season, he was going to get a ton of that receiving back. And it looks like they just said, no, we're going to give that to Jamal Williams. And while we've seen running back ones perform as running back ones consistently with Jamal Williams still in that backfield in Aaron Jones, and a similar prospect coming into the league as Deandre Swift, that's his absolute ceiling now. Deandre Swift's absolute ceiling could have been top 3. I think his absolute ceiling is like that 6th, 7th best running back in the league. And everything would need to swing right for him to get there. Because I'm not super hype on his offense in general. And now he's going to be splitting some work, which I feel like we say every single year about a Detroit Lions running back that we're hype about. And,
Right. How many running backs have gone through Detroit that they're off-season darlings that everybody wants to pounce on, but then it doesn't work out? I still think Swift could be different. And I think he'll get receiving work. Jamal Williams actually can catch the football for a guy who's a little bit more of a bruiser, but man, he might be a vulture. He could be a goal line vulture, and then that is like the ultimate buzzkill as far as Swift's fantasy value goes. Now, he'll get the first and second down work, and he'll be involved on third down because we've seen him do it in the passing game. But yeah, you don't give $7.5 million to a backup running back to not use him. And Jamal Williams has been effective, was effective in his career with the Packers. Now he goes to this Lions team where it's a clear downgrade as far as overall talent. They're not going to be good. So, maybe from a receiving standpoint, Swift is still kind of safe, because I think the Lions will be trailing in a lot of games. But yeah, this feels like a situation where there's going to be weeks where it's a committee and you're a Swift owner and you're ripping your hair out. Like, why is Jamal Williams in there? Why is he getting so much work? Why is Swift not in there? But that's coming.
The same thing that we've done.
Those weeks are coming.
The 1A in the Lions backfield forever.
Yep. Yeah, so this is I don't want to say it's like a significantly less enticing situation now, but it's definitely one where I'm not in love with Deandre Swift to the point where I'm gonna draft after draft hammer him at the top of the second round. I don't see that happening anymore. If he falls to the middle of the second round, okay, fine. But I may opt to take a stud receiver over him at this point.
He's still a young running back with a ton of talent.
Oh, yeah.
He's going to get the majority of the work.
Yeah.
But instead of getting, closer to what James Robinson got in terms of touch share on the ground, he got 85% share on the ground. You might see something more like 65%.
Yeah, that's not happening.
Respectable, but I don't know, man.
It seriously impairs his chances of finishing as a top 5 running back, which I think a lot of people were projecting for him before this signing. So yeah, Swift it's a nitpicky loss. I agree.
Yeah, but I had to point it out.
Yeah,
because he is a high-profile back at this point.
We still like Swift. Actually, in Dynasty, it might be a decent buy low opportunity.
If you can convince the owner that this is enough to let go of him for his entire future, then sure. I mean, I wouldn't be one of those owners, but he does take a hit, so take advantage of it where you can.
Right. Who's the big loser?
The big loser is every single one of the Bears players from the skill position standpoint.
Oh God.
I'm sorry that I know you want to see Allen Robinson finally have a good quarterback, but it's not going to be this season.
He's got the best one of his career so far.
He's going to be 29 next season, and we'll probably go into that season with, I don't know, rookie.
Nah, he'll find a team.
I don't think we're ever going to see prime Allen Robinson play with a good quarterback. I don't think it's ever going to happen.
We might get a couple of years starting next year, depending on what happens. But Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I'm pretty sure Andy Dalton is the best quarterback Allen Robinson has played with to this point in his career. When you think about Blake Bortles and Mitchell Trubisky and Nick Foles, oh my God, Andy Dalton is better than all of those guys? Jesus. But he is. So
yeah, but when you were hoping for, let's trade 3 first-round picks and 2 players for Russell Wilson.
Right.
And you have to default and downgrade to Andy Dalton. That's a high gap to fall in.
Yeah,
that's
not as exciting. But
at least, yes, he can still push the ball downfield, and he's been in the league for a long time. He has the experience. He was able to get AJ Green to perform as a wide receiver 1 early in his career. And for what it's worth, last season, once that team got over its COVID woes, because I think that was the reason why they ended up putting in Cooper Rush and Ben DiNucci, was because Dalton had COVID, right?
That did happen, yeah.
Right. So once he came back from that, he did play a little bit.
They were okay. They were fine. They weren't stellar, but they were all right. The Cowboys offense did okay.
Right. So maybe there's some hope. But this wasn't what any Bears players or any Bears fan was hoping for.
No. In a way, I'm almost hoping that this is an opportunity to take advantage, again, in best ball, where Allen Robinson's ADP doesn't really change or maybe even goes down a little bit. And if you're at the point where you can get him at the bottom of the 3rd round, I still think he's a lock for 120, 130 targets. And they should be higher quality than the target share that he's received so far in his career. So that's the glass half full for Allen Robinson. The rest of the Bears pass catchers, again, I think it's a slight boost compared to what they had been previously working with. So it's not all bad. But yeah, I mean, they're not getting Russell Wilson. So this is the situation that they're going to have to work with in 2021. I think Allen Robinson should be fine. Darnell Mooney could be an interesting guy to try to take a flyer on right now, especially because Anthony Miller's name is coming up in trade rumors. So that could be a boost for Mooney. I assume at some point they're going to cut Jimmy Graham and Cole Kmet will become the tight end 1 officially. So
no, the way they're making moves, they're going to re-sign him to a 6-year deal.
Get out of here. Just stop with that. I don't need that negative energy out in the universe.
I got a question though. This conversation about quarterbacks got me thinking.
Okay.
Because Andy Dalton was signed by Dallas to be the backup to Prescott last season. He wasn't signed after Prescott got injured.
Right.
So is there any way that this and signings like Tyrod Taylor are teams just preparing in the event that they're not able to land a Deshaun Watson?
Or they're trying to draft a young guy.
Right.
But yeah.
But I think if they had an offer like they did, like what was reported, they offered the Seahawks for Russell Wilson on the table, you would think they have a similar offer on the table for Deshaun Watson because he's younger and I think he's better, or at least he's in his offenses. He was given the reins of the entire offense more than Russell Wilson ever has. I would think maybe there's a possibility where they sign Dalton to be their backup and they're trying to work something out to get Deshaun Watson on their...
Sure. I guess it's twofold. One, they are operating as if they're not going to be able to get one of those guys. But also, teams panic, right? Like
But why franchise tag Allen Robinson and then get Andy Dalton at quarterback. Like, those two moves don't make sense.
Well,
you would think you would let the expensive wide receiver walk and rebuild, but you're not.
Because Allen Robinson was the best player on that offense, and it's a business the way the NFL works. You're not going to just let your best player walk.
The Lions did.
Well, the Lions are in full rebuild mode. The Bears,
right? But the Bears should be too.
Well,
that's my point.
Well,
but they're not acting.
I'm not saying that they shouldn't be, but they're probably of the mindset that they still have a defense that they really like, as far as an opportunity for them to help them win games. They made the playoffs last year. I'm just trying to, I'm just spinning it from a standpoint of the Bears front office. They want to continue to compete. They probably feel like they're.
But it makes me think
a top 6 team in the NFC right now.
It makes me think that they have some other, positive
something
to
in
this
the works
plan here. They have something else in the works. Because why would you not rebuild here, and instead dig in with the team that has struggled to be consistent and plays in one of the toughest divisions to play in?
Well, their first round pick is not high, right? They made the playoffs, therefore their first round pick is somewhere in the 20s, which means they're not going to have an opportunity to draft one of the highly touted quarterbacks. So the alternative there is to go and try to continue to compete. For better or worse, I think the Bears are trying to put right now the best team on paper that they can put together. They're not holding their breath on being able to land either Watson or Wilson, however realistic that might be. So they go with the next best option as far as they're concerned. They retain their best player on offense. Let's be real about it. Andy Dalton is an upgrade over what they had at quarterback. And they're going to go out and see what happens. Obviously they're not, they understand Green Bay is the class of the division. But they've won the division with Aaron Rodgers playing before, so I can only imagine they're not scared off at the idea of trying to compete for the division. And that's what they're doing.
Yeah, I guess. I just don't see. I don't see that jiving with what they're doing. And I get it. There's not a ton of free agent quarterbacks out there to speak on.
Here's the other thing. The Bears front office is all on the hot seat, right? Ryan Pace, the GM. Matt Nagy, the head coach.
So it would make sense to go out and make a big splash move to bring in somebody to just try to save their job.
Well, they probably feel like right now that they don't feel as if that's an option for them right now. If Houston and Seattle, let's just assume both of those teams are answering calls for their quarterbacks. If they're turning down every offer, or the offer is so obnoxiously huge, and rightfully so, with a franchise quarterback, that the Bears are right now, today, at the start of the league year, not willing to pay the price. I mean, you have to always have a plan B in your back pocket. It's not an ideal plan B, but they didn't want to go into the draft with the same quarterback room that they've had for the past couple of years. And Andy Dalton was their easiest path to upgrading.
Yeah. I just don't see much upside in a 33-year-old quarterback.
Look, I'm not
who's hit his ceiling a long time ago.
Yeah, I'm not a believer.
Yeah, he might be able to help them reach the playoffs a little bit.
Yeah,
with a little bit more certainty. Just even if they get to the playoffs, they're not winning a game with Andy Dalton at quarterback in 2021.
No, probably not.
Why wouldn't you I don't know. It just doesn't make sense.
I'm not a believer in the Bears. Don't get me wrong. I have, they're not a dark horse to do anything in the NFC or anything like that. But again, when a front office is on the hot seat and is feeling the pressure to win, and that is the case right now with the Bears front office, they are a mediocre season away from getting fired. You have to imagine it. With what they had built a few years ago and the lack of results that have come to fruition as a result, they're feeling the pressure. So they are making decisions that it's easy for us on the outside to say, why would you do that? But when you're fighting for your job, you're going to do things that it might even make less sense of what it's supposed to do. But again, a lame duck general manager and a lame duck head coach are not going to try to rebuild, even though that would be the smart thing to try to sell the organization on. They're going to try to go out and continue to win games because I can only imagine the feeling there is that's the best way to prove that they deserve to be retained. For better or worse.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the chart right now to look at how much cap space you have, and they have negative 33 as it stands right now. So they don't have a ton to work with.
Right.
So that probably has something to do with it. But then again, why are you franchise tagging a wide receiver? Like, I don't know. If you're way over the cap and you can barely make the playoffs, then tear it down.
The Bears are going to bear, man.
Like, fire people. Okay. Yeah, we're going down a rabbit hole. This isn't a fantasy pod anymore. We're talking about NFL decision making.
Right.
So let's stop talking about the Bears.
Yeah, we've exhausted all of our energy on that.
So thank you guys for listening. This is the Face Mess Podcast. My name is John Alsace. His name is Nick Payne.
Yes, it is.
If you liked what we said, put your thoughts in the comment section below. If you didn't, then go fuck yourself.
Whoa!
Yeah.
Or just tell us what.
Oh, man. Sorry.
Do that over.
No, I'm keeping it. Yeah, I'm keeping it.
Jesus.
I don't care.
Jesus Christ.
I don't care.
All right. Signing off.